In his new #1 book, Battle for the American Mind, Uprooting a Century of Miseducation, Pete Hegseth details how American education has changed over the decades. Former professor Dr. Carol Swain has witnessed these changes firsthand and has made it her mission to fight back against woke indoctrination in schools. Pete and Dr. Carol Swain join us right now live. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Swain, let me start with you. You saw this firsthand when you were going through higher education, but now it's morphed into not just higher education or at the college level. Now it's at the local level. It's starting in grade school. It's starting in preschool.
It certainly is, and it's something that the fact that they have targeted our children with the indoctrination, that is chilling, in the sense that the universities have been destroyed. The university is over. The university is not a marketplace for ideas. It is an indoctrination center, and the persons, the teachers who have come out of the university system, they have come out woke, and if they have a degree in teaching education, their mission is to indoctrinate your children.
Right. You know, Pete, I remember when I was a new father, I was thinking, I hope my kids get a great teacher like I had in my public education. And it would be great if they went to the same school. But that same school might be the same building, but the people inside have a different agenda, you say.
Boy, that is exactly right. I was a public school kid. My dad taught public school. I wanted the same thing for my kids, the same experience, the warm glow. You're right. The walls are the same. The instruction, the exact opposite. I want to thank Dr. Carol Swain. It's people like her that have elevated this issue for years before the rest of us saw it coming. She talked about it in higher education, now is leading the way to talk about what's happening in our elementary schools. And Steve, in chapter 6 of our book, it's called The Straight Line from Critical Theory to Antifa, because you really can draw that line. G.K. Chesterton writes, "Education is not a subject and does not deal in subjects. It is instead a transfer of a way of life." Right. That's what the progressives understood 100 years ago. The vision of the good life, the enculturation of the soul is most powerful when done at the youngest of ages. So when you're confronting kids' ideas on race and gender at that age, you set them on an entirely different trajectory than if they just confront that in college.
Sure. And Dr. Swain, I remember when I was in college, this is so archaic. At the Quad, you would hear both sides argue about an issue and, whatever the issue of the day was. Now, it's just one side. It's either my way or the highway.
That's true. And anyone who disagrees, if you're more conservative, or even if you have a question, you don't have to be conservative. People are afraid to speak. Our young people, regardless of whether they come from conservative or liberal families, they're not being educated. And the parents need to really consider, is this the time to send a child to a college or university unless you know for a fact that it isn't an indoctrination center?
Sure.
And I also, I'm reading Pete's book, and it is a great book, and I really applaud his efforts to use his influence to draw attention to it. The problem that's happening in the public schools, because the children, especially those that come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, they're trapped.
Yeah, great point. Pete, I'll give you the last 20 seconds.
Well, we often say I can't stand Congress, but I love my congressman. I know him. He's a nice guy. Same thing applies to school. Parents know that education is a miss, but often we make the excuses saying, but not my school. I know my principal. I know my teacher. Yes, there are great teachers out there. I'm not indicting all of that. But when you look at the entire educational industrial complex, as Carol has laid out, it is captured. So this book is an attempt to help parents and grandparents get their arms around the scope of the problem and then arm them to do something about it. 5 chapters about the solution. Really appreciate the opportunity to share it with this audience.
Absolutely. And speaking of parents, Father's Day weekend, you could go on Amazon, order it right now. It'll be at your house tomorrow, just in time for Dad. The book is Battle for the American Mind. Pete, thank you very much. And
Thank you,
Dr.
Steve.
Swain,
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us from Nashville. All right.